Asus sent over their GL702VS. This is a GTX 1070 based laptop, has an Intel i7-7700HQ, and is actually pretty awesome, so let's take a look at it. Starting off with the specs, as I mentioned, it's an i7-7700HQ. Also features a GTX 1070. This model itself features 24GB of 2800MHz DDR4 RAM. You also have a 256GB M.2 SSD as well as a 1TB hard drive. Now, it's a 2.9kg laptop, so not the lightest of the bunch. Obviously being 17 inches as well, it's also not the most portable, although it is still fairly slim. MSRP right now at the time of filming in the UK is £1,999.99, so basically a £2,000 laptop, although of course you may see this at different prices depending on when you watch this and where you watch this too. It also features a 76 watt-hour battery, which in the PC Mark battery life test saw about 2.5 hours of usage. I would expect about 4 hours of average web browsing, word processing type use, so if you're looking to use this as a student of any sort, it might be okay for you, although obviously the size and weight may be a limiting factor. Although if you are planning on gaming on it on battery, I would expect a little bit less than an hour for you. The I/O is actually pretty comprehensive with an SD card reader, a total of 3 USB 3 ports, 2 on the right, 1 on the left. Also a USB Type-C / Thunderbolt 3 port, which is actually very nice for future expandability. Of course you have DC in, full gigabit Ethernet, mini display port and HDMI, as well as a 4-port audio jack. Taking a look at the keyboard and the trackpad, for me the keyboard layout is actually very nice. Now the FN key is also on the left hand side along with the Windows key, and while I personally prefer the FN key to be on the right hand side so that you can do a lot of the main functions like muting with one hand as opposed to with two, it is nice to see the Windows key on the left hand side for the same reason, being able to do Windows E or Windows D or whatever else, so that is quite nice. Otherwise, the UK layout is certainly something that I enjoy typing on. The overall key feel is actually pretty good as well. They are obviously chiclet style keys, but they aren't too mushy, they aren't too sort of almost chiclety in their travel distance. They have a nice enough travel distance, so overall a pretty comfortable keyboard to type on. The trackpad is actually quite interesting, as when I first started using it, it was a little bit just kind of jumpy. I would notice it sort of jumping around when I was even just using it with one finger, let alone with two, so that was a bit strange, but it is a multi-touch device, so you can use multiple fingers to two-finger scroll, or zoom, pinch to zoom and that sort of thing, or you can also Alt-Tab, or especially in Edge, you can have it go back and forward in the web browser, as opposed to using Alt and left or Alt and right, or the buttons at the top of the browser, so that is pretty cool. Just below the keyboard is actually these main speakers. Now these are actually pretty good. I was really impressed with the overall audio quality from them, and especially considering that they are front-facing, or they are sort of face-facing if you like, meant that the overall audio quality and the audio volume is actually pretty excellent. The display is something I was actually really impressed with. This is a 120Hz G-Sync display, which means that you have a very smooth gaming experience, especially with that GTX 1070. You're going to have a lot of fun with this one, so a very impressive experience. Now I want to make it clear that this seems to be a completely different panel to the MSI 120Hz displays, as this one has fantastic viewing angles and really brilliant color reproduction. I was very impressed with the overall quality of this one, so certainly a thumbs up for the screen. By far the biggest problem with the laptop is the pre-installed bloatware. They've got a lot of stuff on there that pops up randomly. You have stuff like the Asus registration that pops up every 5 minutes unless you've turned it off. You've got the gift box app, which just turns up again randomly and is mostly just giving you free software and calling it a gift. You also have McAfee that will turn up every 5 minutes and tell you that you need to buy a new license, so that can be quite annoying. They have also replaced the number lock key with their RG Gaming Center key, so when you press that button it opens or closes the RG Gaming Center. Now the Gaming Center is actually quite a useful bit of software, as it allows you to change the fans to their maximum speed, as the fans don't seem to be able to do this themselves, which can actually be a bit of an issue. Now the reason I say that is that in my testing, the laptop, especially the CPU, reached a full 93 degrees Celsius, with the GPU hitting about 80 degrees Celsius as well, so pretty hot. Now when I I turned the fans up manually to their full speed, there were considerably lower temperatures, I think in the area of about 70 degrees on both, so certainly very impressive temperatures. It was pretty loud on those max settings, although it is a bit of a shame that the laptop can't ramp itself up to that sort of, the total fan speed, especially when the CPU is running at like 93 degrees Celsius, so that is something to bear in mind. Okay, so we've covered temperatures, let's take a look at the performance. Being a GTX 1070, you can expect these numbers to be fairly high, and well, they are, especially even in PC Mark where it scored 4032 points if you want to compare, and in Dirt Rally on ultra settings at 1080p we're seeing about 96 FPS. Now this is obviously higher than 60, obviously, so you're going to be benefiting from that 120Hz display anyway, and in Doom not running Vulkan, so this is OpenGL as there was a compatibility issue with Vulkan, we're seeing 106 FPS, so if you do get Vulkan working on one of these laptops you're likely going to see an extra 10 or 20 FPS there as well. In GTA 5 on very high settings we're seeing 137 FPS, which again really making the most of that 120Hz display, and in Unity in Heaven we're seeing 122 FPS average as well, so again a very impressive overall score, and you're really making the most of both the GTX 1070 and that 120Hz display, which is very nice. So overall for me this is a really impressive laptop. Now it is fairly expensive, but you get a GTX 1070, you get an i7-7700HQ, which is fairly similar to the desktop i7, although probably a little bit less performance. You get a fantastic display, 120Hz G-Sync, and fantastic viewing angles, so really impressed there. The overall use case for usage for the laptop was actually pretty good. The battery life isn't fantastic, especially for something that is relatively anyway this sized, but at the same time it's not necessarily meant to be an ultrabook by any stretch of the imagination, so that is also something to bear in mind. Now for me, when it comes to scoring, I think I'm going to go for a 4 for value for money. When it comes to performance, I'm going to go with a 5 here, it is pretty excellent, and when it comes to functionality, I think I'm going to go for a 4.5. If they had the temperature sorted out, it'd probably be a 5 there. In terms of styling, I'm going to go with, I think, a 4.5 for me, and a 4.5 for TechteamGB score and a gold award. This is a really impressive laptop, and I am, very overall, well, as I said, impressed with its overall ability. So if you want to know more about this laptop, or check out the pricing, where you are and when you watch this, check out the links in the description down below. I'm also going to leave some other links to Overclockers UK and Amazon affiliates for you to use in the description down below. Those links genuinely help me out. All you have to do is click on them before you buy stuff, so if you could do that, that would be fantastic. It helps me make these videos, so I'd really appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button if this is a video that you're not subscribed to, or a channel you're not subscribed to, and of course feel free to check me out on Facebook and Twitter at TechteamGB on both. Otherwise, I'm going to leave some other videos over here for you, and the subscribe button over this side if you don't want to, scroll down and click it yourself. And otherwise, yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you all in the next one.